Welcome everyone to this session of Meet the Prof at Luther. My name is Héctor Acero-Ferrer and I am an adjunct faculty here at Luther. I've been here for 4 years and I love it. It's been a wonderful experience. First of all, let me say that as you can tell by the accent, I am originally South American. I am from Colombia. I was born and raised in Colombia during the 80s and 90s, a very troubled time in a very beautiful country. A lot of who I am and what I want to do is definitely shaped by my experiences as a child and as a young person in Colombia. I also been shaped by being in Canada. I've been in Canada for 12 years, and that has been a wonderful journey for me to the point that just last summer I became a Canadian citizen, and this is the first Canada Day of 2020 that I get to celebrate as a citizen. I don't take that lightly. I know that there is a lot of responsibility that comes with it, and that's part of what I want to convey in my own teaching here in Canada. Going back to my childhood and my upbringing and how it informs me, I should say that a lot of the people that surrounded me as I grew up were educators, were people that wanted to, in a way or another, wanted to help their communities through teaching people how to be more hopeful, how to transform society, how to bring about justice in a context of struggle and strife and decline and many times violence. I began my undergrad studies in philosophy at the National University of Colombia. And halfway through my program, I had to leave the country. So I came here to Canada. It was a bit by chance that I chose Canada, but I've come to know and love this country very much. And here I enrolled at the University of Toronto, and I finished my undergrad degree here in philosophy. And after that, I went into theology, and that's an interesting story. I went into philosophy because I wanted to think about the big questions of life, the pressing questions about meaning, about relationships, about our existence in the world and what we are called to do as a society. And throughout the process of my studies in philosophy, I learned to articulate a lot of those questions, but I also learned that many philosophers stay away from the real life connections of those questions. So they will think about meaning and meaning in life, and the experience of everyday people out in the street are not present to them the way I wish they were. And funnily enough, that took me to theology. Theology allowed me to ground what I was thinking in terms of those big philosophical questions, to connect those questions with the lives of real people in real communities with real problems. Particularly the practical aspect of theology, the ministry component was important to me, as I was someone who was always captivated by social action and by social justice and by environmental justice. So that was important, and that connection was great. I studied theology at the Toronto School of Theology in Regis College. It's a Jesuit-run school, and in my experiences there, I was able to ask the big questions I was asking in philosophy anew, with people in the room, in community, and with the struggle that entails. So people don't agree about these questions. People enter into dialogue from different backgrounds, and even from different faith backgrounds. A lot of people coming to the University of Toronto and to Toronto School of Theology are themselves not Christian, or they are agnostic or secular, however you want to call it. There are so many backgrounds coming together to think about these questions, and that was important to me, and that informed a second aspect of my interest. So it is the big questions, but it is the big questions from a multi-faith lens. So interfaith dialogue became really important to me. And that informed also my understanding of social justice and ultimately of advocacy and frontline work. A very long story that leads to a return to philosophy. After doing a master's in theology, I again did a master's in philosophy after having done my undergrad in philosophy. And in that master's, which is at the Institute for Christian Studies, I was able to ask those questions again. So as you can see, the life of a philosopher is a life of a lifelong learner, is asking the same questions over and over again in different contexts. And that happened at the Institute, where I did my MA in philosophy, and I'm now doing my PhD. My area of interest, of focus in all of these research and academic life is how faith, how religion informs people in their social justice activities, in their commitment to transforming their communities for the better, in their commitment to bringing about justice for those who have been oppressed or marginalized, in their commitment to environmental justice as well. So all those things. I'm specifically looking into a movement that was born in Latin America in the second half of the 20th century. Liberation theology became a branch or a movement or an impulse within theology that called theologians to think about the context in which theology is done, and also what theology can do to change the real life situation of those people who come to church, who believe in what the gospel is calling us to do. So all of that makes me really passionate about liberation theology and what it can offer. It's not perfect, but it's an answer. It's a way of engaging these questions I've been talking about. So I find it very fascinating, and I continue to delve into more and more tools that come out of liberation theology. So as a philosopher, I'm looking into how liberation theology allows people to transform the biblical passages, the biblical narratives into an imaginary, something that allows people to reinvent, reimagine their world and act on it and be mobilized so that the change that they are hoping for actually happens. That's, again, a long and complicated story I'm trying to abbreviate here, but all of that is what informs my teaching. As I mentioned it before, since I was a child, I was surrounded by educators, and I knew I wanted to be an educator. Then through my different engagements here in Toronto, not only academic, but outside of the academy, especially with interfaith dialogue groups and social justice groups, I realized that there were a lot of young people out there, like me at the time, who were trying to do all these things and were, in a way or another, they were feeling alone or lonely in that process. They thought that they were the only ones doing that in their community, that other young people did not feel the way they felt about these issues, or that they were not engaged. And the reality is that as a group, we came together and we figured out that the interest for transformation and for social justice and for dialogue is out there. It's a matter of finding out which tools will bring people towards that. That youth have the desire to contribute, but they don't necessarily know how to do it, and that we needed to develop strategies to bring them into what we were doing. So that context informs the course that I teach at Luther. So the course that I teach is Engaging Youth Culture. That's the title of the course, but it's a lot more than that. So there are several aspects to the course. Along the lines of what I mentioned before: interreligious dialogue, reconciliation, social action, social justice understood as an umbrella for all of these things. But at the same time, that in the context of youth. So what do youth feel and think about these issues? And how are they engaging these issues? And are they or not engaging these issues? There is a lot of kind of folk tales out there that make you believe either as a person of faith or just as a person living in the public sphere, that there was a lot of commitment in the past, that there was a lot of work for social justice in the past, but that young people now are just on their phones, not engaging one another. And I think that that's not really true. Young people are interested and they want to be engaged. And they also have figured out new ways of being engaged and empowered and being leaders. It's just a matter of articulating some of that and finding the connection between the young people who are leading these initiatives and the young people that want to be part of them, in a world that has so much communication coming at us at the same time. So that's what the course is all about. The course has workshop elements. The course has retreats incorporated in it, has panel discussions, and has a lot of participation. So students find that a bit troubling at the beginning because they need to be on the entire time. They need to be engaged, but perhaps by the second, third session of the course, everybody is so excited about the discussions, and we have really open, frank conversations about what we want the world to be and what we can contribute to it. So those are very difficult topics, and they have to do a lot with who we are as people. So we know we need to be kind of vulnerable throughout the process, but we also do it in a safe space where we all know that we are cared for by each other. So that has been my experience so far teaching the course. Engaging youth cultures is also a bit of a glimpse into what different calls for action will look like. So the first part of the course is philosophical. It's about big questions. So we ask the students how they think about those big issues, like their responsibility in the world and their responsibility to one another, to their communities. We ask them what they think about that, and we ask them that at a philosophical level. And then we ask them the questions of how would you re-articulate those questions so that they are heard, that they are something that captivates others. So not only about asking the questions, but having the right way of asking the questions so that others can engage with us in that process. And that's the first step. Second step is to make that tools. So we take those questions, those concerns, and we make them into tools for action. And then the third part of the course is a bit more strategy oriented. So we have the tools, we have the questions, what works for us in our context with our projects. So students finish the term creating their own project of youth engagement, or just improving projects that they already have in place. So many of the students that have taken the courses are themselves activists. So they have their own projects and they want to improve them. So the end of the course is an opportunity for those strategies to emerge and for them to feel empowered to do that work in the real world. A lot of the life at Luther has to do with the integration of faith and learning and action. So this course tries to be a microcosm of that integration of the life of faith that people bring with them, their studies, their academic background, but also their desire to transform their communities, their deep concerns about the well-being of those who are less fortunate, who are marginalized, who are vulnerable. All these terms that we have, that we throw out there, that we usually just skim over in our newspaper reads or in our conversations. So this course is an opportunity to continue that conversation, to make it something we not only care about, that we follow through on, so that we can think about that, we can act on that, and we are empowered to invite others to be engaged in the same process. So that's a bit of the story of the course, the story of what brings me to all of these. I welcome your questions. I welcome your interaction. So you'll find my email in the website. Please don't hesitate, email me. I'm always in the business of engagement. So, and it's not something superfluous, it's something about deep, meaningful dialogue and cooperation. So be assured I will answer your questions to the best of my abilities, and I will engage you in true dialogue as far as I can do it. I continue to improve every day. So that's one of the things that I do at Luther. I learn from my colleagues and my students how to be a better dialoguer and how to be a better collaborator. So thank you for this opportunity of speaking to you today, and please look us up, both Luther and my own site within Luther, and please engage with us in discussion. We're happy to begin a conversation about the questions I've been talking about. Thank you.